Hello friends. The generation about which people often say that this generation is useless, they will not achieve anything. It is this very generation, Gen Z, that has toppled the government in Nepal. They forced Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli to resign. Now, the situation has escalated so much that the Prime Minister's house was set on fire. The Parliament building was also engulfed in flames. The Finance Minister was dragged out onto the streets and beaten with shoes by the protesters. And in all this chaos, an unfortunate death also occurred. The wife of a former Prime Minister died when their house was set on fire. So the question arises, what is the reason behind all this anger? Is it only because of the social media ban that we are seeing all of this? The answer is no, friends. The reasons go much deeper than that. Let's understand in today's video. This is the story of 8th September 2025. In Nepal's capital, Kathmandu, thousands of people gathered to protest. Most of them were young people, Gen Z, many wearing school uniforms, others in college clothes. This protest was organized by an NGO called Hami Nepal. Protesters marched from the symbolic monument, Maitigar Mandala, in the heart of Kathmandu towards the parliament. The march was almost completely peaceful and non-violent, but the government deployed police to stop them, and the police started using water cannons, tear gas, and rubber bullets against the protesters. Soon, clashes broke out between police and the protesters. Some protesters even entered the parliament complex. But then, what the police did shocked the entire country. They opened fire on the protesters with live bullets. At least 19 protesters were killed and more than 400 injured. These were not rubber bullets, but real bullets. Among the dead was even a 12-year-old child. Naturally, after such tyranny, people could not remain silent. As the news spread, more and more people poured onto the streets. Protest numbers grew rapidly, filling entire roads. To maintain control, the government tried to impose a curfew at 3:30 p.m., but it failed. The protests spread further, not just in Kathmandu, but also in Pokhara, Butwal, Bharatpur, and Damak. Now, the reason that got the most attention in the media was the ban on social media apps in Nepal. Yes, this is one reason, but there are even bigger reasons: corruption, misgovernance, rising unemployment, and nepotism by ministers. Let's first talk about the social media ban. In November 2023, the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology ordered social media companies to register with the government and establish a local presence. The government claimed this was to stop hate speech, fake news, fraud, and crime. They even issued 5 public notices about it. But apart from 5 small platforms, none of the major companies complied. Only one big name registered: China's TikTok. Nepal's Supreme Court also allowed the government to ban those platforms that did not register. On 28th of August this year, the government gave companies a deadline until 3rd September to register, or else face a ban. Most didn't comply, so 26 platforms were banned, including Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, Snapchat, and Twitter, all except TikTok.
Protesters say the government did this not for safety, but to control social media and silence people's voices. The ban is against our freedom of speech. They want to control us, just like a dictator. On social media, videos were going viral, exposing corruption and nepotism in the government. Videos showed the lavish lifestyles of politicians' kids. Nepo kids. This angered the youth. Unemployment was already a huge issue. In 2024, Nepal's youth unemployment rate was 20.82%, meaning 1 in every 5 young people had no job. Very few jobs were being created, forcing many to migrate abroad. Conditions became so bad that thousands of Nepalis even went to fight in the Russia-Ukraine war just for money. By February 2024, around 15,000 plus Nepalis had joined the Russian military, receiving only a few weeks of training before being sent to the front lines. Many Nepalis have been killed in the war. But people still went because jobs in Nepal were scarce and Russia offered attractive salaries. Some fighters said they earned up to $4,000 per month, over 5 lakh Nepali rupees, a huge amount compared to Nepal. Meanwhile, Nepali politicians' children flaunted the luxury lifestyles, foreign trips, parties, expensive collections on social media. People saw this irony and began trending hashtags like #NepoKids and #NepoBaby. TikTok was filled with videos comparing the struggles of ordinary Nepalis with the luxurious lives of politicians' kids. One protester's poster read, "Politicians' children return from abroad with Gucci bags, while ordinary people's children return in coffins," referring to Nepalis dying in the Russia-Ukraine war. Now let's move to the second half of the story. Nepal's youth are extremely frustrated with the same 70-plus-year-old politicians who have ruled for decades, switching power between themselves. In March earlier this year, another protest erupted where some people even said, "Nepal's republic experiment has failed. Maybe we should return to monarchy." Yes, people are so frustrated that they're talking about removing democracy and bringing back kingship. Until 2008, Nepal was a monarchy. The last king was King Janendra. Two big movements removed the monarchy, the 2006 People's Movement and the long-running Maoist insurgency. On 28 May 2008, the monarchy was officially abolished and Nepal became a federal democratic republic. But in the 17 years of democracy since then, the government has changed 13 times. Leaders like Oli, Prachanda, Pushpa Kamal Dahal, and Sher Bahadur Deuba keep rotating power. Alliances are made and broken within months. The two dominant forces are Nepali Congress and Nepali Communist parties, UML and Maoist Center. All these leaders have corruption charges. Deuba accused of taking illegal commission in aircraft purchase. His wife Arzu Rana Deuba accused of faking documents to send Bhutanese refugees to the US as Nepalis. Prachanda accused of diverting funds meant for Maoist fighters into his own pocket. Oli accused of violating Supreme Court orders and converting tea estate land into commercial plots. Even more former PMs are accused of illegally giving government land to private individuals. The real issue, since 2006, Nepal has a practice that politicians cannot be investigated for policy-related decisions. This gives them immunity and fuels corruption. Now combine this corruption, inequality, unemployment, nepotism, and then add the sudden ban on social media. This was the tipping point. Social media wasn't just for fun, but it was also a source of jobs and essential for Nepal's tourism industry, which relies heavily on online outreach and bookings. The ban disrupted tourism completely. Millions of families who relied on apps like WhatsApp to communicate with relatives abroad were also hurt. Around 7 million Nepalis live abroad for work and study.
This fueled the protests even more. And when people peacefully took to the streets, the government reacted like an authoritarian regime, deploying police, firing bullets, and silencing protesters. The government defended the ban with nationalism. The PM said, "We are against foreign agencies. We will not allow anything that weakens our nation." But eventually, the government had to bow down. First, the Home Minister resigned on moral grounds and the social media ban was lifted. Yet, protests did not stop. Protesters set fire to the houses of the PM, president, and even the opposition leader. The army had to use helicopters to evacuate ministers and officials. Finally, on 9th September, around 2 a.m., Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli also resigned. As of now, protests have not stopped. People are demanding systematic reforms. Nepal's army chief has addressed the nation calling for peace. Nepal is a live example of what happens when governments ignore real issues like corruption, unemployment, and nepotism and try to silence people's voices. The lesson for all governments: never ignore the people so much that things spiral out of control. Because once they do, it becomes almost impossible to restore control. Anti-democracy groups may even push for monarchy again, but that is not the solution. The solution must come through a democratic setup. I hope Nepal finds a peaceful, long-term solution. If you want some inspiration on how a country can move in the right direction, check out my case study on Singapore. A poor country once, but within a few decades became Asia's #1. Thank you very much.